Here's what we get wrong about Indian history. We tend to think that our ancestors were fundamentally different, that they were always serious, duty-bound, and chaste. Take romance, for example. Modern romance can be rough, but if you think dating was so much simpler for your ancestors, think again. In fact, ancient Indians flirted at taverns, went on park dates, had live-in partners, and engaged in extramarital affairs. Some of them even got stuck in the so-called friend zone. Simply put, ancient Indians struggled with and wanted many of the same things that you do. Hop in the time machine, adventurers, because the best way to learn is to get some hands-on experience. As your self-appointed historical dating coach, we're here to help you flirt like an ancient Indian with expert guidance from texts like the Kama Sutra. First things first, where are you supposed to meet romantic prospects? Let's clear something up. The notion that unmarried men and women lived in isolation from one another is a false one. Mixed-gender friend groups were common, and this enabled men and women to spend time together without any pressure or judgment. So consider expanding your next social event to include friends of friends, giving you an opportunity to flirt with new romantic prospects. Hot tip, just don't get caught in the friend zone. Hilariously, the Kama Sutra, yes, that one, references the friend zone and advises men to be clear about their romantic intentions. Still a student? Well, you're in a particularly good position to find love. In ancient Indian schools, you'd likely have opportunities to interact with the opposite sex in the intimacy of shared quarters. In the Katha Sarata Sagara, for example, there are stories about secret romantic liaisons between male and female students at a traditional school. Meanwhile, in the Sindhava Jataka text, a pair of lovers, a former Buddhist monk and a former Buddhist nun, reminisce about the early days of their romance while they were students at the monastery. Ancient Indians, just like us, longed for connection and companionship, whether they were in school or looking for God. But if you're not in school anymore, or your friends don't have the scoop on any interesting new romantic prospects, then you'll have to venture out into public spaces to find the right match. The Kama Sutra advises men to frequent places where women of interest often spend their time. Parks, gardens, public events or temples, town squares, markets, and other communal spaces. Let her see you in the marketplace, noble in bearing, and let her curiosity grow. You might be wondering, wait, I can actually flirt with someone in public spaces? Yes, you absolutely can. In the Mrichakataka, for example, the author talks about people openly flirting in marketplace areas. Meanwhile, in the Matavilasa Prahasana, the characters talk about how taverns are places where many different groups, including women, could mingle. Festivals were a fantastic place to flirt too. It was common for groups of young men and women to get together and celebrate important cultural events through song, dance, and games. Ancient Indians believed that these festivities created an atmosphere conducive to romance. Okay, so you found someone who catches your eye. Now what? If you know what people actually want, you'll be better equipped to seduce them. For both men and women, the following traits were considered attractive. Physical beauty. Suitors are expected to maintain a pleasing physical appearance through good hygiene, elegant clothing, and tasteful accessories, such as jewelry and decorative henna. Just don't go overboard. Let him dress in fine garments, anoint himself with fragrant oils, and wear ornaments that display his taste, but are not ostentatious. Emotional validation. Beautiful. In ancient India, women really appreciated compliments. A woman's heart blooms when tended with care, her spirit lifted by words of praise. But hold your horses, Romeo. Don't just praise her physical beauty. Take care to notice her intelligence, generosity, and humor too. Ladies, it's worth learning how to play the compliment game too. Men were particularly appreciative of partners who admired their virtues and praised their achievements.
Oh my goodness.
A woman who speaks kindly of her lover, even to strangers, wins his heart more than 100 caresses. Ancient Indians were attracted to partners who could engage them beyond the physical realm. Intellectual and cultural sophistication were critical to romance among educated people. Like the moon that moves the tides, his words move my heart, for they speak of distant lands and timeless truths. Both men and women were encouraged to compose poetry, discuss philosophy, play musical instruments, and create art to impress their intended partners. A man or woman who is well-versed in the 64 arts becomes the object of universal regard, even if they are not particularly good-looking. According to many ancient Indian texts, seduction thrives on lighthearted humor and a quick wit. A man should delight a woman by his wit, his gestures, and his cleverness in repartee, making her laugh and feel at ease. Both men and women were encouraged to share amusing stories and engage in lighthearted teasing, riddles, and playful banter. In fact, it was seen as essential to building intimacy and rapport. To attract women specifically, thoughtful gifts. According to ancient Indian texts, women were particularly receptive to thoughtful gifts, such as flowers or ornaments. Gifts were seen as a way for a male suitor to show care and affection. In some regions, lovers wrote secret messages on lotus or palm leaves, and they used turmeric-infused water, which would only appear when held under sunlight or heat, something like an early version of invisible ink. As a token of intimacy, lovers also exchanged betel leaves smeared with scented oils or embedded with their own bite marks. Women would sometimes playfully test their lover by asking them to prepare perfectly folded betel leaves, a task that required precision and care. Respect and patience. It was considered essential to respect a woman's boundaries throughout the courtship process. Many ancient Indian texts warn against pressuring a woman into a relationship. Do not pluck the flower before it blooms. Let it open in its own time, revealing its beauty willingly. Vatsyayana, for example, encouraged suitors to be attentive and patient and to allow the relationship to develop naturally over time, ensuring that the experience was consensual. A man who disregards her consent or acts rashly is unworthy of her trust. He should adapt his behavior to the personality of the woman, timid, bold, or moderate, and approach her with words and actions that resonate with her nature. To attract men specifically, ancient Indian men admired women who took initiative in expressing their romantic interests. When a woman takes the lead with charm and wit, she ignites the spark of desire in a man, making her all the more irresistible. In fact, ancient Indians considered a confident and graceful woman so captivating that she could draw the attention of a crowd away from the heroic man. Seduction 101: Do's and Don'ts. Don't talk only about yourself. The first hour was wasted on stories of his favorite sports. The next quarter went by with him offering me toffees. Then he spent another hour droning on about his gym routine. And after that, trust me, you don't want to know. Do poke fun of each other. To mimic her words lightly or to feign misunderstanding in jest brings her delight and softens her reserve. Don't be a nerd. All your pious reading has ruined you, like the worm that feasts on bitter neem leaves. You don't know what's good for you. We'll go to hell, at least it'll be together. Let's go for it. Do give proper attention. The break is done and the semester is here, stealing his attention like a second wife. His lectures are all that he can think about. I can flirt all I like. I'm not getting any tonight.
Access denied.
Don't be too cautious in love. She's the love god's own arrow, the latest model, never seen before. If you're struck, it's difficult to live with the heartbreak. If you aren't, have you really lived? Do make excuses to touch. Even when we hung out with friends and I was telling you things that I could well say out loud, I leaned in to whisper because I couldn't resist brushing my lips against your cheek. Don't be too aggressive. Let the man proceed like the gentle breeze, not the storm, for the heart of a woman is delicate and must be won with care. Do pay attention to cues. If she looks at you often, smiles faintly, or adjusts her ornaments, know that her heart is inclined towards you. A woman, when she laughs and teases in return, signals her favor and readiness for deeper companionship. Enjoying time with your new partner? Great, but you don't have to rush into a marriage. In fact, premarital intimacy, both emotional and physical, was common in ancient India. In Tamil Sangam literature, for example, the concept of kalavu, clandestine love, explores the emotional and physical bonds between lovers in the premarital context. Rather progressively, these ancient texts emphasize the woman's agency in initiating and consenting to such encounters. The Kama Sutra provides a detailed account of how premarital sexual relationships could and should unfold. For example, Vatsyayana advises women to test a suitor's physical compatibility and emotional sensitivities before committing to marriage.
Impressive.
Interestingly, this premarital trial period was part of the culture in much of ancient India. In essence, couples were encouraged to spend time together before marriage and to study each other's habits, temperaments, and preferences to better evaluate their suitability as lifetime partners. When two hearts unite, they may test their bond in the privacy of shared quarters before seeking the blessings of society. These texts even outline practical questions to consider during the trial phase. Does she enjoy music and poetry? Can she hold an engaging conversation? Is she graceful in her movements? This pragmatic approach helped to reduce the likelihood of mismatched unions. But not all premarital relationships were trials for marriage. In fact, many ancient Indian texts acknowledge long-term live-in relationships as legitimate and imply that they were rather common. When a man and a woman find mutual affection, they may live as companions without binding vows. Frustrated by your newfound partner? Don't fret, adventurer. In ancient India, breaking up was always an option. Breakup-worthy issues included failing to give proper attention to grooming and failing to give proper efforts to maintaining an attractive appearance, having a monotonous approach to romance, predictable routines, and a lack of excitement. Fun fact, to avoid this issue, ancient Indian texts suggest that men should plan romantic outings, that is, dates, such as attending musical performances or going on nature walks together. Ignoring your partner's feelings, failing to properly communicate, and being dismissive of their preferences. Overwhelming your partner with excessive attention, or, by contrast, neglecting them with inadequate attention. But breaking up isn't easy, so what should you do? Well, ancient Indian texts have the answers here too, providing detailed guidance so that you can break up as amicably as possible. Gradually withdraw affection by reducing emotional and physical intimacy and time spent on shared activities. Create opportunities for your partner to meet new suitors, ensuring that she has a chance at future happiness with someone else. But above all, be kind. When love fades, let parting be gentle, without harsh words or cruelty, for affection once shared should not turn to enmity. Do be careful not to let an unhappy relationship stagnate, because you might be risking adultery. Vatsyayana even notes that women neglected by their husbands or married to sexually incompatible partners were likely to seek companionship outside of their marriage. A wise man must approach a neglected woman with care, offering her solace and affection while ensuring that their liaison remains hidden from prying eyes. By contrast, while the Arthashastra implicitly recognizes adultery as common, it takes a more legalistic approach and prescribes various penalties for it. That being said, the text does provide remedies, such as divorce. And now you know. If you like our content and would like to support us, become a channel member by clicking the join button below this video. You'll get access to fun perks, from custom emojis to BTS updates and monthly Q&A live streams.